The Culture Pop Podcast is brought to you by the law offices of Jacob Emrani.
Accident or injury, call Jacob Emrani. Call Jacob.
Hey, it's Mase. If you or a friend or loved one is injured in an accident, the first person you should call is my friend Jacob. When I did this, Jacob was great. He helped me by talking through the next steps, which really put my mind at ease. When you're injured in an accident, you got to have an expert. That's why you call Jacob, just like I did. Call Jacob, 844-24-JACOB. That's 844-24-JACOB, or visit calljacob.com.
Call Jacob.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Culture Pop Podcast. I'm Steve Mason, along with Sue Kalinsky. Sue Ballou, I never know. By the way, we're on YouTube now. I never know whether to look at the green light or to look at the boxes where we are. I can't make up my mind. Sometimes I play directly to the green light, and then sometimes I forget and I'm talking down low.
Well, what's weird about talking to the green light, it's kind of like you're on a show. You're on TV.
Correct.
And you're talking to the home you're talking to the home audience.
Exactly.
But it's weird because we're actually having a conversation.
Yes.
So not looking at you is really odd.
The one lesson I learned from when I did a lot of stuff on television, especially at ESPN in Bristol, was always find your single. Find your single, then go for your. So the green light is our single. And I guess this would make this our wide. I mean, you're in show business. Is this our wide shot, or is this obviously isn't a single?
Well, on each of us, it is.
I guess we each have a single.
That's the confusing
thing. Yeah. By the way, if you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel yet, please do that. Just go to youtube.com and search Culture Pop Podcast, and we will pop right up. Great guest today, Cassidy Freeman, who is one of the stars of Righteous Gemstones, which is one of my favorite funny shows on TV. Now, Sue, you had something to sort of get started with today.
Yes. So this is what I want to pose to you.
Okay.
You go out to eat with an acquaintance.
Okay.
And they order something that exceeds what you've ordered in price.
So they order the more expensive thing. They get
item.
the surf and turf, whatever it is.
And you get a salad.
Yeah.
Or something lesser.
Yeah.
The bill comes and they don't offer to pay more. Now, they're not a good friend. They're an acquaintance.
Okay.
Do you just, you know what? I'm out having a meal. Let's just split it. Or do you say something and say, okay, no matter what?
No matter what, I'm going to split it. Like, for example, have you been in one of those big group things where all of a sudden the check comes and this lady's like, well, I didn't drink any. He had 3 drinks and, he got the more expensive thing. It's like, no, just cut the crap and just make it easy. I'm now against? I'm against confrontations. I don't want to have any more confrontations. I want to avoid controversy. I want to be very conflict averse now. So I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to split it down the middle.
Yes, I do that too. Okay. I have another restaurant scenario.
Okay.
Years ago, I had lunch with a newer agent at where my representation was.
Right.
And my agent said, I want you to go out to lunch with him. I want you to get to know him. And I said, great. So my agency was blocks from where I lived.
Okay.
So there was a restaurant in the neighborhood that I suggested that we meet at.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a restaurant that my landlords owned.
Okay.
And I was very friendly with my landlords.
Got it.
And I used to eat there all the time. And it was during the time when I was working on Ellen's sitcom. And I was ordering in a lot of food. And they were so gracious to me. They would always give me at least an appetizer or a dessert for free.
Nice.
Every time I ordered.
That's nice.
And, and I'm a big tipper. I used to be a waitress. So I come from that world, being,
yes.
Being a server. So we eat,
yep.
The bill comes, he pays and leaves the most outrageously bad tip.
Oh no.
Like maybe 10%, maybe less.
Oh no. And this is a place you go to all the time.
This is a place I go to, this is like my Cheers, So we leave and I'm mortified, right?
You already know what the tip is. Did you see what he wrote down or did you
saw
cash?
I saw what he left.
Oh.
So we leave and I walk out with him and then I said goodbye. He walks away. I went back in and left more money.
Yeah. Would I have done the same?
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. The one thing I noticed, even at my very low level of quasi well-known famousness in Los Angeles, I never know who is there. And I just wonder if they happen to know who I am and the reputation gets out that I'm a bad tipper. Now, I will say this too. I'm a big, for some reason on the show, I give this reputation of being a bad tipper. I'm a very good tipper. I tip really well. I over tip probably, which I think is okay because that money in the hands of a server is going to be more valuable than it is to me at some point. So I do believe in tipping. But in this particular scenario, I would go back in, especially given the fact that I go there all the time, and I'd throw a little extra money on the table.
Right. See, my rule is I don't care how bad the service is. They will always get 20%.
Really, no matter what?
They will always get 20%. And if they're amazing, then I go beyond.
Okay. So tell me if this is not cool. Tell me if this is not cool. So if the service is, now I understand people get stuck in the weeds and there are too many tables and all that stuff. If the person is not polite, if they're not friendly, if they're not warm, if they don't give a damn, I don't leave a tip.
You don't leave a tip at all?
No.
Oh, wow. I've never not done that. I mean, there have been times where I have left a lesser tip, but I've never left nothing. Like, I remember when I was a kid, teenager, high school, whatever, you go out to lunch and, kids like the worst tippers in the world.
Sure.
And if it was a bad waitress or waiter, we would leave money like you'd leave like a penny or something under like a glass or something, or you'd leave it like under like a little bit of ketchup. I mean, it was just leaving it just to stick it in that you were really, really bad at your job.
So I had a time where I was very, very infuriated by the service. And this was years ago. So, and this is why I have the reputation for being a bad tipper, because I've told this story in the show. So really rude, really not cool. I was infuriated. I was really upset. So there was a napkin on the table and I had a pen and I wrote on the napkin, "Your tip is on the other side." And when you turned it over, there was a smiley face emoticon and it said smile.
Wow.
Now, was that a dick move?
Kind of. Kind of. Look, unless you've gone back to the same restaurant and had the same server. Right. You don't know what was going on that particular day for somebody. But look, if someone is rude, you're more apt to not reward them for their job. But yeah, that's pretty bad.
Your tip is on the other side. Smile.
Yeah. You'll see your tip on the other side, as they would say at MSNBC. It's a tough one, but it's a tough gig. And then because I've been on the side of being a great server, yes, and not getting a really good tip.
What restaurant did you work at?
I worked at many. I worked at this restaurant in New York. It was called the Paul Revere Restaurant. Okay. It was in 50-something street on the east side. Yeah. And my brother had gotten me the job. And I always had issues with my boss. I mean, he liked me because he thought I was very funny and he knew I was a good waitress, but we were supposed to wear like a certain outfit. It wasn't like a uniform, but white shirt, tan skirt, whatever. And, I more often than not, I wouldn't adhere to the dress code. So, I'd get like a look from him when I'd walk in, and then, it would go away. So one day, and it was a big business lunch rush restaurant.
Okay.
And this guy walks in with this woman, and he tells me that he's in a rush. And can you please get the food out quickly? I said, no problem. So, food comes out quick. I actually gave them free drinks.
Okay.
Because they were nice. And I didn't know what was going on, whether they were a couple or whether they worked together. So he tells me that he's in a major rush, and then he sits there for like an hour and a half after he's done. And this is a lunch rush.
Right.
So I've got to turn tables over in order to make money. And
Yeah.
it happened to be a really, really crappy day of tips for me.
Okay.
So I hand him the check. He puts down his card. I pick it up. And he left me a less than 10% tip.
Oh.
After the service was amazing.
Yeah.
And I went really way beyond.
Okay.
So I looked at it, and as he was getting up, I said, I just want to know, was there an issue with the service? And he said, no, not at all. It was great. Is there something wrong with the tip? And I said, well, it's customary at that time, I guess it was 15%.
Yeah, right.
I said it was customary to leave 15%, and you left less than 10. So I just want to know, were you not happy with the service? And he starts to change it. And then he gets a look from the woman.
Yep.
And he looks at me and he says, you know what? How dare you question my tip in front of my guest? And he's yelling at me.
Yeah.
In my station. Everybody turns around.
Yeah.
And my boss happens to be walking up from the kitchen and hears it and walks by and just kind of whispers to me, you're too much. Right? And the guy and he left.
Yeah.
And then after the lunch, my boss says, come here. I want to talk to you upstairs. Come upstairs. And he fired me.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, he fired me. And he said, you can't do that. And I said, I got like the worst tips. I can't pay my rent on this money. And you know what? When somebody does the wrong thing by me or any other wait staff,
yeah,
there's nothing you could do. You can't come to our rescue.
Right.
You're not going to make it up to us. You're not going to.
Can I just say,
yeah.
I find what you did totally inappropriate.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That you went back and said, hey, wait a minute.
I didn't go back.
Like
I didn't
11%.
Well, yeah. You know what? It was a hard, you never know what's going on with somebody when they do things. It was a horrible day.
Yeah.
It's like everybody had stiffed me that day.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you take it so personally. I know you're not supposed, customers always right and all that, but so I got fired.
Yeah. That's a shame. That's a shame for arguing over a tip.
What are you going to do?
I worked as a wait staff guy at Di Benedetto's restaurant on East Mary Street at Bowling Green State University, Bowling Green, Ohio. And I was the sandwich making guy. And I would, what I remember about this, I don't remember much about this job. I had it for one summer. You'd make sub sandwiches, et cetera, pre-portioned meat, all that. But I got to slice the meat, which was interesting, because it made me freaked out because I just imagined the blade.
Cutting off a finger?
Yeah, cut off a finger, lose a finger. So anyway, roast beef was the most delicious thing. So I would cut down the roast beef and I cut it all the way down to nothing. And then the heel I would take with me and I would eat it later at home. Have you ever eaten a roast beef heel?
No.
Oh, it's so good. It is so good.
It makes me so nauseous just because I don't eat meat, but go ahead.
You don't eat any meat?
No. I mean, I eat chicken. I mean, I don't eat red meat.
You don't eat red meat. Yeah. Oh, it's delicious. Red meat is delicious. Don't you miss it?
No, not at all.
Oh my God. I love a good steak. Give me a good steak. Anyway, the roast beef heel you should try. I think you can order it.
Yeah, I'll try
Jimmy
it now.
John's.
Now that I don't eat red meat.
Yeah, check it out. It's at Jimmy John's.
Just because you're telling me how great it is.
Yes, exactly. All right, let's jump in here. Our guest today has starred on shows like Longmire, Smallville, and The Vampire Diaries. She is currently one of the stars of the hilarious Righteous Gemstones, which has just returned for season 3 on HBO. Cassidy Freeman joins us. Cassidy, thank you so much for doing this.
Happy to be here.
So I love Righteous Gemstones. We both love the show. One of my favorite shows on TV right now, John Goodman and the great Danny McBride and Edie Patterson. Such a great cast. Really funny. And you are great in it. You're great in it.
Thank you.
So how did the casting work? How did you wind up in this role? Were there personal connections? Was it just a straight up audition? How did that work?
You know, it's an interesting story. As you probably can tell, Danny likes to work with the same people. He kind of finds his crew and then often finds roles for them, which I think is really cool. This actually came about because his previous show, Vice Principals, was casting when the show Longmire that I was on had been dropped by A&E and had not yet been picked up by Netflix. And so I actually auditioned for that show. It was a huge opportunity, never really having done comedy. And he was in the room. And I mean, I had to go through like 7 different auditions to get in there. And they wanted me to be on the show. And then right when we were kind of talking about that possibility, given the fact that, you know, Longmire had been canceled, Netflix picked up Longmire. So I had to back out. And I was sad about it, but happy that bittersweet. Sure. And then I thought that opportunity had flown and I was bummed by that because I really liked it. But then after Longmire ended and this show came, they called me in for an audition. I auditioned. I was like, even if I don't get it, I'm just so glad they remembered me or they wanted to bring me back. And then it all worked out.
So I love silly. That is one of my favorite things. And I don't know how you guys keep a straight face. Like when you're shooting, is there a day where you get through everything without breaking and cracking up? I don't know how if it's even possible.
Well, it's not actually. It's not possible. We absolutely crack up and we make each other laugh, which is probably why you can feel that we're having a lot of fun when we're making the show. But I'd say, you know, I think we also can tell when each other are about to break, and we try to like not really look at the, you know, not look directly at them. It's like being in church or like for me, like yoga class, like when something, you know, like somebody farts in yoga class and you like
Sure.
can't stop yourself from laughing. Filming this show is like farting in yoga class. We'll just leave it at that.
There you go. That's an excellent description. Excellent description. So to me, Danny McBride, you know, Eastbound and Down, all the stuff he's done, a huge fan. And then, Adam Devine, I knew as well going into the show. Edie Patterson. I mean, she is so, Sue used the word silly. She's so silly. She's so weird. Is there something in that carries over to real life?
Oh man. I mean, she's a goddamn unicorn. Like she's one of the most talented, like just free, incredibly present comedians and actors I've ever worked with. Also, I'm like wildly in love with her. We're pretty much like both of our partners are cool that we're also kind of married. She's one of the greatest humans as well. She cares so much. And this is something like this ability for her to be in a character. Like I'm so excited because this is really her. Like, this is such a shining moment for her. Something that she's been able to do since she was a little kid. She now gets celebrated and gets the chance to do. And it's, you know, if you live in Los Angeles, she's part of the Groundlings. You may have gone and seen her live. She does this show called One, where it's literally just her improvising an entire hour-long show and playing all the characters. And I sweat through all of my clothing before waiting for her to get on stage. I was so nervous. And she just slays it all. So, you know, it is something, it is in her. She's not like Judy, but I think she loves playing Judy because it's like the uninhibited version of all of us. If we could just say everything we wanted to say in a moment, and just feel our emotions to the fullest. And I think that's so fun for her to play, and she's great at it.
There's this crazy scene I was going to just say where she's in this argument in a bathroom. This was in season 2, and I'm trying to remember the exact sequence, but she winds up in this confrontation in the bathroom. And when she gets really, really mad, she goes to the bathroom stall and closes it like she's leaving instead of leaving the bathroom. It is so damn funny. It's so weird. It's so funny.
Yeah, I think that's with BJ's sister.
Yes,
when they're having their like bad 80s girl moment in the bathroom, who was actually played by Tim Baltz's real life wife.
Oh, okay.
Which was even more fun. Who's also a very talented comedian. So I think it was a layered experience and really cool to watch.
All right, let's talk wardrobe.
Oh yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
So do you know, like whenever I like Danny McBride, well, his hair alone is hysterical. But do you like if you see people like coming out into, out of trailers or whatever, and because you don't know what people are going to be wearing before you actually shoot, do you?
Not often, no, unless it's something like crazy. But no, not often. So continue. Yes.
Yeah. No, I was going to say that just the wardrobe alone. Now, do you have any input sometimes on what you think Amber would wear, or do you or is that whatever the wardrobe could put you in?
Her style is so far from my personal style that I really give it up to our costume designer. Christina Flattery this season before it was Sarah Trost. And I really give it up to them because they're going to go 100 miles in a direction I never would have thought. The only kind of veto power I get is if I can breathe or if I can sit down. Or if like the heels, like what am I doing? Am I running in the scene? Because I'll break my leg. But other than that, I kind of don't even get a say, and I love it. I love just getting to be styled by these incredibly talented people.
So when I was at college, my roommates and I watched Jim and Tammy Faye Baker after class every single day. It was this crazy, weird combination of pseudo Christianity / panhandling / comedy. It was just like the craziest.
So you were watching it for like its entertainment value, or you were watching
its entertainment value? Okay. Oh no, believe
it's
me.
Like, let's get real here. Okay.
No, it was so entertaining. So did you do any research into mega churches or televangelists before you started shooting?
I didn't. I've done more since we've started, only because the things that we do in the show end up actually happening in real life. And then we're kind of like, wait, what came first, the chicken or the egg? Like we think we're creating these insane situations and then they happen. I didn't do a lot of research because I think with such a very specific type of person, it's easy to do a caricature or it's easy to like imitate. Mm-hmm. And I think what is interesting about this show and why people do gravitate towards it as something that affects them emotionally, not just entertainment value, is that these people are like somewhat relatable. Like they have to believe themselves. They have to come off as authentic, or else you're sort of like, why do I care about this like raging a-hole? So I think I didn't do it because I wanted it to come from me. I wanted it to be like, if Cassidy really thought this, if like, where's the real emotion in this? But since then, because all these documentaries have come out, I have watched them and they are fascinating.
Which one did you like? Did you watch the Falwell one?
I watched the Tammy Faye one.
Oh, the Tammy Faye one is amazing. Yeah.
Well, when you look at the family and the relationship you guys have with, just the way you talk to one another. I mean, just duplicitous and just like really nasty sometimes. It kind of reminds me of it's like a televangelist Succession.
Yes.
Yeah. A lot of people relate us to that show. And I have to say, I've never really watched it. Probably because people do that so much. I know now, though, I can watch the whole thing, right? I can just sit down and spend a week or 3 of my life and get it done.
Yes.
But I think people relate us so much to that show. And I think maybe I'd had enough of people being shitty to each other that I didn't then want to spend my time watching it. But it's really, and it's also siblingdom in a way. And I think that's what connects those two shows, right? It's like these people that we love, but also can take sort of the hardest hits that we can dole out because they are family.
Yeah. The one thing about Succession and your show, I think, is that it makes it look like being rich isn't actually as cool as we all think it. Like that's from Succession, and that's from you guys. It's like it's mockery of rich people with unlimited means, you know?
Yeah, I think we have this idea, right? Wealth, capitalism, it's like something we all strive for. Well, if I had money, then I'd be okay. And the truth is, what is it? More money, more problems. Like it's just, it gets complicated, and your vision of life gets skewed, and you kind of stop realizing what's really important. And I think that's cool that each season of our show kind of does, is it just dives into the deep end of wealth and over the topness. And then somehow through that, we have to find each other again. We have to find like why we're in this, which is like forgiveness and each other.
You know, it's funny, in the description of your character, one of the things it says is that she encourages Jesse's ambitions to take more control of the church while privately struggling with his negative qualities. Right?
Well written. Yes.
Do you really love him? Does Amber really love him?
I think she does. I think she really does. And I think what's cool about this season, you'll see a little bit of history in the flashback episode in episode 5. You'll sort of see some previous Amber and Jesse, which is a cool touchback. I love those flashback episodes because they really deepen the story of the present moment. I think she does love him. I think there's a cool scene in episode 2, in season 2, where it's like the girls' time when Aunt Tiff and Edie and I are all in the room together. Sure. And I'm like talking about how like he's not right all the time. It's like she does love him. She's also, I think, sometimes totally disgusted by him. And the unraveling of their marriage in season 1, where she really, I think before she was sort of in the dark, thinking that he was perfect and everything was good. And then he had this huge betrayal. And that, I think, brought their relationship to a really authentic place where she was like, okay, he's not perfect. I'm not perfect. Nobody's perfect, but we're choosing each other. And I think, look, if you guys have partners and you think they're 100% rad, God bless you. Yeah. But I think we all have moments where we're like, oh, that thing they do. His are just, in front of an entire church. So it's that much more embarrassing.
Yeah. Yeah. So I know at college you majored in theater. Were you always going to be an actor? Is that what you knew you wanted to be from the jump?
I think so. Yeah. As I look down, someone once told me when I said I wanted to be an actor, a mentor of mine said, if you can do anything else, do that. Cause this is not an easy road, but, I think I was 3 years old when my mom put me in ballet. I think she said I was 5 because I was huge. And she had to lie to get me in. And I think she just wanted me like out of the house. She's like, please give this child something to do. And both my older brothers are actors. It's sort of a family affair. So, I was raised in downtown Chicago. We were in the opera, we were around dance and theater, and it just was something that was very available to us to see. And my brothers are 5 and 10 years older than me. So I got to see them on stages as a pretty young kid. And it just was a place where there was no right or wrong. You just had to show up and be as present as possible. And that always felt like so much fun to me. And I thought, gosh, if I could make a living doing that, like how amazing would that be? And it just always was a place I was charmed to be. And I'm grateful that I get to do it because it's a very small percentage of us that get to make a living doing it.
Yeah. So what was your best high school performance? If you go back and you think about your high school plays, what was your best performance and role?
Sally Bowles in Cabaret.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
That was done in a high school, huh?
Yes, very inappropriately.
That's ballsy, huh?
It sure was. And I think it had to be. It was a visiting professor, so like he couldn't get fired, right? And I think our theater teacher, Mrs. Hardigan, was stoked to have this person come in and do this pretty ballsy, daring show. I remember my mother showing me the movie. And just being like, watch this and like, feel this. I think it's such a cool musical.
Oh, it's amazing.
It is. We did a musical every spring. I mean, trying to get 14 to 18-year-old girls as Kit Kat girls. I mean, just wildly inappropriate. This could not happen in 2023.
No.
But in 1998, I got to tell you, it was off the hook. And it was so much fun to play that part. The songs were so incredible to sing, and I just loved it.
I love learning about actors. We find out that we're interviewing somebody, and you go online and you read about them. And so you have a band with your brothers. Do you still have a band with your brothers, the Decoy?
The Real Decoy. Yeah.
The Real Decoy, yes.
The Real Decoy.
I love that.
Thank you. We make a joke that everyone calls us the Real Decoy. And we're like, it's like that movie, that Tom Hanks movie, The Oneaters, That Thing You Do. I don't know. It's one of my favorite movies. And everyone called them the Oneaters, and they're like, the Wonders. My brother and I both went to Middlebury College, and the other bandmate, Andy Mitten, was between us because we were 5 years apart. So we were never there together. And they played music together at Middlebury. And then we were all in LA. And when you're in your 20s in LA and like nothing's happening, you have to find ways to be creative. And so we rented this like shoebox near a highway. And we just made as much noise as we possibly could. And I love to sing, and I played keyboard in that band pretty horribly. My brother's a percussionist, and Andy's an incredible songwriter. He writes musicals, and he's just incredible. So we played around LA as much as we could. And then we got the opportunity to play at the Isle of Wight Festival in England, which was a huge opportunity. I like to say we opened up for Pearl Jam, but we played about 6 hours before them on a different stage. But I still like to say that because it makes me feel good.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. Oh, yeah.
Right?
Own it.
Yeah.
So anytime that someone has a jam band or people are bringing instruments together, I just think it's a really cool way to be together and to share stuff, because music is like the greatest thing.
So
I just want to tell you, I listened to one of the songs, Red Rover. You guys, it's indie rock.
Yeah.
And it's great.
Dude,
the band is really, really good. The vocals are great. The lyrics are great. I love it. So are you not, was that kind of a passing fancy, or you still play?
No, we don't, because Andy moved to the East Coast and had kids, and my brother had kids, and now I have a kid, and I don't know, kids ruin everything. So, we all got yokoed by our kids. It just was like, people grow up and grow out. But I have this idea that in the future, once we can all be in the same place, we could have a little revival.
Nice.
Yeah.
So last thing for you, your family also has had a cattle ranch in Montana.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever work on the ranch? What's the most valuable lesson you learned from living and working on a ranch?
Man, yes, I often worked on the ranch. I did things that friends of mine in Chicago were like, what? A cow's what? And the things I learned working on the ranch, it's just nice to be outside. And animals are pretty special. I just think we're losing it every day. The ability to be of the earth. I don't want to go into some like speech about people and phones and technology, but there's just something really special about being outside, about working with your hands, about slowing down, that the ranch offered me. And the work that I did with horses growing up, and the ability to train horses and ride horses was I think it broadened my sense of self as a person. I wasn't just a city kid from Chicago. I got this incredible country mouse opportunity too. And my dad still lives out there full time. And we don't raise cattle anymore because my mom passed, and it's a lot for him to do alone. But it's still our family home. It's where we go for Christmas and summer and stuff.
No, very cool. Very
so
cool.
Steve and I are not notoriously morning people. What time would you have to get up in the morning to do the work that needed to be done on the ranch?
Oh man, there was actually a summer when after high school, I went out there. My parents weren't even out there. Our ranch manager was there, and I lived in a trailer outside of his house. And I just like hayed for the whole summer. So I lived in a tractor with my dog. That's a good 5 a.m. wake up, especially in the summer, because the sun gets there's never not sun. in the summer. And so you're just working. But I'm an early riser. I love the morning. I'm very much a morning person. And then if you want to talk to me like after 4 p.m., we're not going to talk. Cause
see, I would, if I was on the ranch, I'd have those little cushioned, glasses, the things you put over your eyes, because I have so much trouble with the morning. Like even now, Sue and I joke when we come on and we start talking in the morning, it's like, even now, it's 10:20 in the morning. I'm like, oh God, It's so early for me. So,
well, yeah, I think this is maybe why I didn't mind having a kid either. Cause everyone's like, they're going to get you up so early. And I'm like, yeah, I'm already up.
Well, and also it depends on what you're used to. I did stand-up comedy for many, many years. And, there were nights where I was going on at 3:00 in the morning.
Right.
So I'd sleep till 2 in the afternoon.
Yeah. Well, in college, I just did this thing. It's called just not sleeping. Cause I had a radio show and I was
a radio show.
Yeah. Yeah. At WRMC 91.1 FM Middlebury. And it was awesome. I actually drive this old camper van around, it just fills me with joy. And, it has a tape deck in it, which is very rare these days.
Sure.
And, I have this humongous Case Logic full of all of my radio shows when I was in college. And I just pop them in and listen to the stuff that I did. And it's hilarious to me. Anyone else gets in the car and I turn it off because I'm wildly embarrassed, but I love listening to them.
So what was the format? What kind of radio did you do?
So WRMC, students had 2-hour blocks basically. And when I was a freshman and sophomore, they gave me 1 to 3 a.m. blocks.
Nice.
So this is what I'm getting at, that I would be on the radio speaking to 6 people, maybe while they're sleeping or driving, hopefully not at the same time. And I would play music. I played electronic music because I was into that for a while. And then it turned into a lot of indie rock. And then I ran the concert series because we would invite people to come to Middlebury and play because no one passes through Middlebury.
Right. Right.
So it was really fun. It was a really cool opportunity. I hope everyone in college gets to be part of a radio show.
Very cool. Well, listen.
Just real quick.
Yeah,
I want to ask about your camper van. So,
yeah.
Do you use your camper van? I mean, do you go to RV parks and things like that? Is that because I have a travel trailer, my husband and I.
Cool.
And that's what we do all the time.
Mine's a Euro van. So it's it's a 2003 Euro van. It does not have the kitchen in it because I think that's weird to cook in your bed, but it has the bed in the back. And my dude and I would often during COVID just drive up into Colorado and find hot springs and then just sleep in our car, even in January. And I got to tell you, it's chilly, but it was super fun.
Awesome.
Cool.
Awesome. Well, listen, Righteous Gemstones, one of the highlights of my week. It is back for season 3, Sunday nights on HBO. Cassidy, thanks a lot for doing this. It's really fun and appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you guys.
There you have it, Cassidy Freeman. And I think you nailed it on this show when you called it silly. It is just a silly, silly show, which I love.
And it's surprising that she said that she had never done comedy before.
I know. That is crazy because I can't imagine. Well, I mean, I didn't go back and watch Vampire Diaries, but I can't imagine her doing. I only imagine her as Amber now.
Yeah. I mean, she was I didn't watch Vampire Diaries, but just reading about it, she was a badass, character, real toughie. She was a 900-year-old vampire. I don't think there was a lot of levity in it. And then she was in Smallville. So, it was that totally shocked me. Because I would think that that's exactly the type of actress they would have been looking for, somebody who had major comedy chops.
Yes.
So that's a testament to how versatile she is.
How good she is and how funny the show is. It is such a funny show. All right. So don't forget Righteous Gemstones on Sunday nights, 9:00 Eastern, 6:00 Pacific. It is really, really a funny show. The first few episodes are out now on HBO. Strong recommend. Go back from the beginning and rifle through it because it's funny stuff. Don't forget, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you're watching right now, subscribe to the YouTube channel and feel free to leave a comment, a review. I'm trying to respond to that stuff. And if you want to follow the show on YouTube, go to youtube.com and search Culture Pop Podcast. Of course, we're on Apple and Spotify, and we welcome your comments and stuff on there and love when you subscribe. It means a lot to us. Sue Ballou, it is great seeing you, and we will see everybody next time on the Culture Pop Podcast.